course, my namesake, Your Excellency, and UNDP, my dear sister Ahuna, and all the excellencies here present. It's a great honor to address this gathering on this important topic about accelerating women's entrepreneurship development in our continent, Africa, knowing that it's a catalyst for inclusive development. Talking about inclusive development, inclusivity, I think that was one of the key messages that we harvested from the just adopted pact for the future, and also the associated foundational documents, including a declaration for future generations and the digital compact. Of course, women are at the center stage in all of those. And as we know, in Africa, women are the backbone of our economies. They make up over 50% of the population and over 60% of its self-employed workforce. They are very entrepreneurial, although many still operate in the informal sector and in the social and solidarity care industries. Women are reshaping our economies in agriculture, in retail, in manufacturing, and in services, driving innovative solutions to our continent's challenges. But despite their contributions, they still face a number of challenges, as they are also missing out on opportunities being created, especially in sectors like energy and in other sectors that are involving industrialization, value addition, and so on and so forth. And some of these challenges, barriers, include access to financing as well, restricted property rights, including rights to own land, inadequate training, and social cultural norms that are still undermining their leadership potential. Yet when women succeed, societies thrive, making women's entrepreneurship really a catalyst for inclusive development. So, relating to this reflection on the future and the pact that was just adopted yesterday, the global community reaffirmed its commitment to a shared future for all by adopting these instruments. These landmark documents underscore the necessity of achieving gender equality and empowering women is central to building an inclusive and sustainable society. The African Union's work to accelerate women's entrepreneurship aligns directly with these global aspirations, as we are determined to break down barriers and ensure that the women are at the heart of Africa's development agenda. So for that, we have been doing a few things. I will just save you of the details, but only to highlight that we have been focusing especially on closing the financing gap, which I think is a key hindrance still women are facing. Of course, as the African Union has declared the decade for women's financial and economic inclusion, decade running from 2020 to 2030. That was just after another decade that was focusing on grassroots women, 2010 to 2020. And they also put up initiatives, including a fund that is now being transformed into a trust fund for women, African women. But together with the UN, especially the UN Women and the Economic Commission for Africa, UN Economic Commission for Africa, and AULIN, we have also co-created a fund of funds, an African Women Impact Fund that is actually being managed by Standard Bank South Africa, and for which actually we are mobilizing resources so that women in this space, fund managers can also have more muscle to support other women as they do their business. I wish also to say that we have been focusing also in entrepreneurship, and this is one of the ways that we see going forward, because investing in training and capacity building programs that equip women with the skills needed to succeed in business indeed is the right way to go. I recall that UDANEPAD has partnered with the EcoBank during the COVID time to see how they can support SMEs with capacity. Another initiative is around closing the digital gap, and this goes in line with the Global Digital Compact I just mentioned. We know that the digital gap in Africa is still very significant. By the way, when we are talking of really, living in a digital age, sometimes we don't take cognizance of challenges in terms of access to their content. When most of the women we are talking about, especially those in rural areas, are not capable of writing and they cannot read. So if you mean getting them and reducing the digital divide for them, that means going an extra mile in terms of how do you communicate and how do you create the contents that are maybe visual or that are otherwise, so that you can interact with them. So we are also talking about integrating women into the value chains and trade. We have an FCFTA, Africa Continental Free Trade Area, that has a fully fledged protocol for women and youth in trade. And this instrument is there to be implemented. Then we are talking also of enhancing participation of women, youth, and SMEs through procurement. We know that our governments and our public offices, they run huge sums of millions of dollars in terms of public procurement. And how do we make sure that we ensure quotas as affirmative action to fast-track access to women entrepreneurs to these markets? Then, social norms. You know, this has been a challenge. And as African Union, we've been driving a campaign for positive masculinity and how you make sure that the environment around that woman and that young girl, including their members of the family, their fathers, their husbands, their brothers, and their teachers, really are also participating and contributing to empowering her. Then issues of balancing, helping her balance as her responsibilities as a mother, as a wife, as a caregiver, as an entrepreneur. So that's when we are talking of energy, we need to think about how can we make her life easier so that she doesn't have to always rely on charcoal as she's cooking, and she can have like tools and equipment that can assist her in actually better manage her time because she's facing time poverty. Then we are also looking at policies and the legal and regulatory frameworks that are advocating for better inclusion, reforms in ease of doing business, and so on and so forth. So, in all of this, the role of partnerships is important. That's why UNDP is an important and very reliable partner in this journey. The African Union understands that indeed partnerships are critical, and we have come up with a framework for partnerships to support and accelerate women and youth financial and economic inclusion. We call it Wi-Fi, W-Y-F-E-I, Wi-Fi 2030. So Women and Youth Financial and Economic Inclusion 2030 framework, which is a framework of offering partnership. We say the African Union has a great convening power, just like the UN has globally. But on the continent, what do you do without the African Union? Because we can convene 55 member states, and we have policies, policy instruments, we have governing structures that are actually making action happen through the intergovernmental process. And through this, we want to partner with the private sector, especially the financial institutions, and other partners who have programs on the ground, so that we can have a vision around Agenda 2063, we can deliver for women, and we can actually monitor and hold ourselves accountable towards what we have committed as achievements. So this is a framework that is there. So we rely on countries like Zimbabwe to domesticate that framework, to see how we can together push through the hard lines so that we can improve her life as we go forward. So by advancing women's economic empowerment, we are not just fulfilling a regional vision, but also contributing to a global movement for inclusive and equitable development. So by working together and with our commitment to the Pact for the Future and the Declaration on Future Generations, we can ensure that women's entrepreneurship continues to be a catalyst for Africa's inclusive development and indeed for a more just and equitable world. I thank you.